Welcome to Full-Time Yoga Teacher Podcast. My name is Reika and I am your host. Thank you so much for listening and tuning in this week to this Full-Time Yoga Teacher Podcast. If you're new to this podcast, welcome. And if you are a returning listener, welcome back. I'm so happy that you continue to choose to come back and tune in to this podcast. So Full-Time Yoga Teacher Podcast was started almost 2 years ago. It's been 2 years, I can't believe it, because I wanted to interview other full-time yoga teachers across the world to see and hear about their journey of how they are making yoga into their full-time career, something they love into a career, and how do they balance work-life balance, or how are they able to find their own unique way to make yoga into their career path. So I hope you're enjoying all the interviews I've been having with amazing yoga teachers across the world. I want to make today's intro quick. So I want to introduce today's guest. Today's guest is Danielle. And Danielle and I connected on Instagram after I interviewed Steve, who is a full-time yoga teacher and a ultra runner. When I interviewed him and released that podcast episode, that's when we connected, because she is also a ultra runner as well as yoga studio owner in Philadelphia. So I wanted to speak to her about her life, her career, how she became a yoga teacher and how she became a studio owner, and how she balances being an ultra runner as well as teaching yoga and owning a yoga studio. So I hope you enjoy this conversation I had with Danielle. She was such a pleasure to speak to. She was so kind and she had so many great things to share. And she also gave me a lot of cool information about ultra running and some tips on her trainings and all of that. So at the time of this recording, I was interviewing her right before, like a couple days before my first 50K that I was running. So I asked her quite a bit of questions in that area as well. But I hope you enjoyed this conversation I had with Danielle, and I will speak to you on the other side. Welcome, Danielle, to the Full-Time Yoga Teacher Podcast. I'm very excited to have this conversation with you. So I want to quickly maybe mention it to the listeners here that Danielle and I connected on Instagram after I released the podcast episode with Steve, who is also a yoga teacher and an ultra runner. And on that conversation, I was kind of mentioning to Steve that I've been looking for other yoga teacher or full-time yoga teachers who is also a ultra runner, just because I've been getting into running lately and I just been wanting to speak to somebody else who's like me, because around in my circle, all the yoga teachers kind of see running as like, oh, that's bad for your body kind of thing. So I've been kind of wanting to connect with other ultra runners who's also a yoga teacher. So that's kind of how we connected. So I'm really excited to chat with you today. And I'm also happy that you reached out. So please, Danielle, tell the listener, where are you joining this conversation from? And also, where are you originally from?
So thank you so much, Reika, for having me on your podcast. I am Danielle Neathery. I live in Delaware County, Pennsylvania, which is right outside of Philadelphia County.
And
I've always been from here.
Okay, got it. And I learned from your Instagram account that you're a yoga teacher and also a studio owner. So I'm just kind of curious how your life unfolded, that you became a yoga teacher and then a studio owner, because that's another level of being in the business of yoga. So maybe, how did you first get introduced to yoga? How did you become a yoga teacher?
Great. So I love talking about all things yoga and all things running. So I'm very excited. You'll see me all smiles today. I can't remember exactly when I first got introduced to the practice of asana, but I know that it was at LA Fitness, and it was somewhere around probably 2005 or 2006. So I started practicing asana just in LA Fitness, and it was an unfortunate series because I would have to skip Shavasana to get my son out of the childcare. So I was missing a really huge component of the practice. Fast forward some years, my friend, she took a 200-hour teacher training, and when she took that training, she was saying, "Hey, I have to practice teaching. Can I practice to you?" So I was thrilled, and I took all her practice classes, and we started practicing a lot more together online and in other studios. So I originally decided I was going to take my yoga teacher training in Tuesday. I wrote some notes down
Uh-huh.
in 2016.
Yeah.
So my original goal to take the YTT was just to deepen my practice of yoga. I
Mhm.
thought maybe I would teach when I was retired. I
Mhm.
was in the engineering industry and I was happy in that industry, or so I thought. And,
Mhm.
I was like, I'll teach when I'm retired. Then again, fast forward, that
Mhm.
same friend that took that yoga teacher training years before I did, she became pregnant
Oh.
and she had some corporate clients and she said, I can't teach these clients. I'm going on maternity leave. Would you teach them for me? And I was like, oh boy, I'm not ready. And she's like, you're ready, you're ready, you're ready. So she threw me right into it.
Mhm.
And here I am teaching yoga ever since.
So was it pretty right away that you started teaching after teacher training, or did you have some time that you were kind of not teaching, or were you just teaching a little bit here and there?
It's so funny because I actually remember filling out the application for YTT, like not wanting to teach until years down the road.
Mhm.
But, the universe had other plans for me. And I did start teaching right away because after I got thrown into it and I got those initial nerves over with, I really enjoyed it. And I had people reaching out to me, hey, will you teach yoga at our facility?
Uh,
And how can I say no to that?
yeah.
Right. So I didn't have to search it out.
Uh-huh.
These opportunities came to me, which made it much more easy because if I had to go on like yoga interviews and do auditions, I don't think I would be where I am right now for sure.
Mhm. That's the best way to get out teaching is like when people are asking you to come teach, like, hey, can you come teach this? Or would you like to come here and teach that? Or like, I'm looking for a teacher. Like your community is like asking you to kind of step into that role. So that sounds really amazing. I feel like it was maybe right timing, like the divine timing for you. So I'm curious about this transition of, you were in engineering field, you said?
Yes, I was an electrical designer for many years.
Okay. So a lot of people listening to this podcast are either wanting to be a full-time or maybe are already full-time yoga teacher or maybe are trying to figure out what it's like to be a full-time yoga teacher. In the podcast, I'm not trying to promote being a full-time teacher is the best thing. Like I don't think it's for everybody and it's not easy path and sometimes it's better if it's a part-time thing. So I'm not trying to say this is the best way, but I know a lot of people listen because they are curious about being a full-time. And like you, many people come from another career path. So how did you transition from you know, be working in engineering field and just teaching one or two classes a week into actually like transitioning into fully into yoga? Or I don't know if you actually did fully transition. So I'm curious.
Yes, great question. So when I was starting that YTT, in 2016, I was feeling like the toxic culture of the engineering industry
Mm-hmm.
because it's a wild industry and I don't want to bash anyone or anything, but after taking this training and learning more about like what I really wanted for my life, it was not that. And
Mm-hmm.
I knew that I was going to have to do something different eventually. I knew it was not a sustainable industry for me
Mm-hmm.
as a mother and, just someone who wanted to have a life outside of work.
Uh-huh.
My feet were starting to leave, the facility. I had one foot out the door, we'll say.
Yeah.
And I was married at the time, still married, separated now.
Uh-huh.
But my husband supported
Uh-huh.
me when I decided I wanted to leave the engineering industry and try to pursue yoga full time.
Uh-huh. So it was kind of like one day, like you decided, quit. I'm gonna do yoga. Did you feel like you had to have certain number of classes in your week before you felt ready to quit?
So I was trying to look back on some of my
Mhm.
class schedules, but before I knew we were having this call, and I had some part time opportunities before I left, and I knew that I could get more when I
Mhm.
had a more open schedule because a lot of opportunities are during business hours.
Yeah.
I knew I could make that transition, and then I did have some other gym owners wanting
Mhm.
me to teach, asana practice at their facilities. So I
Mhm.
knew the opportunities were there, and I had the support.
Mhm.
And I had also been laid off many times in the engineering industry.
Mm.
After this last layoff, I started at another facility, and I just was like, I really have to make a change.
Yeah. And how long after your graduation from 200 did you actually made that quit and moved in fully into yoga world?
So I was trying to look up the exact date and I can't remember exactly when it was. So I know I finished the yoga teacher training so we started in 2016, we graduated in 2017. And I want to say it was at the end of 2017 that I left the
Okay.
corporate field, but I can't find exact dates for
Well,
that. It could have been
a
early
year
20,
or so.
right.
And how was that? How did it go when you started to like go full in?
So it went really well. I had a lot of opportunities opening up for me. I have a really great community, and it seems like the more people I meet, the more people want to see me succeed in this
Yeah.
adventure. So I feel really blessed in that. So it seems pretty seamless for me,
Yeah.
but going from an engineering salary
Yeah.
to a yoga teacher salary, it was quite shocking. But at the time, I had my husband to fall back on. So I was grateful for that.
Yeah, okay. And when you started teaching fully, do you remember how many classes you were teaching?
I wanna say it was around 8 to 10 at first, and then I upped it a bit, and I started to experience burnout pretty quickly,
Yeah.
and then I started to shift my focus a little bit and started teaching more, recovery yoga classes,
Sure.
which I was able to bill a little higher for than, say, a studio class or a gym
Mhm.
class. So, when that happened, I was able to scale back how many classes I was teaching.
And when you say recovery class and you were able to bill higher, were you teaching at studios or were you creating your own courses and like renting a space? Like, how did you do that?
So I teach recovery yoga at a few local drug and alcohol treatment centers. So
Ah.
I go to their facility and I offer the asana practice and then,
Yeah. Okay. That's really cool because I always tell we talk about with yoga teachers, it's how important it is to diversify our income stream, but not just teach at yoga studios or gym only, but finding other places to teach yoga, like corporate or at the recovery center. So, how did you get that opportunity? Were you reaching out to those centers? How did you find those opportunities?
So I am a member of the recovery community. I've been in recovery since late 2001 and I knew many people in the industry, and they were really happy to have me come out. One
Yeah.
of my very best friends, who unfortunately has passed away, her mother was the director of a recovery halfway house in
Hmm.
our area, and she graciously let me come in there. I've been teaching there ever since. So
Mhm.
it's been great. And now other facilities have welcomed me in.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And I'm sure it's it's wonderful that you as a teacher has the experience of coming through that because then you can teach you can kind of understand the students you're teaching to.
Exactly. And I actually did do a training with an organization called the Transformation Yoga Project. They call it TSY, trauma sensitive yoga
Mhm.
training. It was like a weekend of training, but it was very, very helpful.
Amazing. I know I want to keep asking more about this, but maybe I do have one question to ask to go a little bit into this and then I'll go back to, your journey as a teacher. But how does your teaching differ when you're teaching at the recovery center versus let's say teaching at a gym or yoga studio?
Great question. So I honestly felt like it was a bit of unlearning at first from that original 200-hour course to then learning to teach trauma sensitive, right? It's a very, inviting practice. Like, if this
Yes.
feels good, very curious practice. But I try to teach that way in all my classes now and all the that I teach. However, it is still different, right? When I teach a vinyasa flow at our yoga studio, it's a little more
Mhm.
it's all levels still, but when I teach at a facility, it's as if everyone there is very brand new, maybe never practiced asana ever.
Mhm. Mhm.
So it's
Yeah.
still, but a little different. I
Yeah.
don't do certain poses, very challenging poses I won't do.
Mhm.
Um, Poses that could be subjective, like someone I don't do, right? So just a little bit.
Can you give example of some poses that you may avoid teaching in that setting?
So it depends for sure if the class is co-ed or if it's
Mm.
one gender or another. They may do different things because someone may feel more safe with everyone of the same gender in the space.
Mm-hmm.
However, I don't really do a lot of I never really teach downward facing dog. I don't do table and things where you just feel like your rear end is up or just visibly seen, just that to make people feel comfortable in all settings.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Thank you for sharing and explaining that. I'm sure some people were wondering. But definitely, I feel like going to teach in those settings and community, it's best to do some kind of training, like you said, the trauma informed trainings. And like there are weekend trainings or even online trainings out there for somebody who want to learn how to be trauma informed. So thank you for sharing that part. That was a little side road. But okay, so you started teaching full time. You quit your other corporate job. And how long did it take for you to feel like, okay, like I got this? This can be a nice, like this feel comfortable in this new career path.
I would probably say maybe this week, and that could change next week. Next week, I could be uncomfortable again. No, but seriously, it's always been a challenge for me because even as someone who was married, I still felt very like it was very important for me to have like financial freedom, financial responsibility.
Mhm.
So that was really a struggle for me. And honestly, like really just recently, I'm feeling financially stable and
Mhm.
it's still challenging, but it's worth it.
Yeah.
I don't want to go back to the engineering industry, nothing against them.
Mhm.
I really love my time freedom. I'm still working on financial freedom, but I'll get
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so tell me, how did you become a studio owner? Like, how did that opportunity arrive, or how did you make that decision?
So again, I had no interest in becoming a studio owner when I took YTT or even after I started teaching yoga part-time or full-time. A dear friend of mine, Tom DeVitro, he was taking over a gym space. So he had a small space in this building and he was going to take over the whole building.
Uh,
And he said to me and my husband, he said, if we fit this out, do you want to create a studio here?
uh-huh.
And it's the most amazing opportunity because my husband is a carpenter and he was able to completely construct this space,
Wow.
and his demolition job of the other parts of the gym funded this studio space. Again, we didn't have the upfront money to do it.
Yeah.
It just all worked out and the opportunity, it was great.
Oh, amazing. So your studio is like a section of the bigger gym.
It was.
It was, okay.
Now we're in a different location now.
Oh, okay. So initially, were you kind of like renting a space from a bigger company or gym? And then
Yes.
now, okay. So tell me when you started out there as like renting the space out of that. Like, so it was just one room studio. How did you go about and learn to become a studio owner?
I honestly am still winging it to this day. And it was a 500 square foot space inside the gym. And I already had a pretty good home base with students that came to my classes, and we were taking classes in that space when it was just a large open gym. And now we just had our own private yoga studio.
And
And it was very beautiful. It had nice lighting, and you
then,
could still hear the gym on the outside when they were, lifting really heavy weights. I'm talking like 500-pound deadlifts. You could hear them slamming every now and again.
yeah.
Uh, but it was still a tranquil space, and, yeah, it was a neat opportunity.
And how did you do the membership? Like, did people have a membership to the yoga space and the gym, or were you working completely separated from the gym, and you had your own pricing membership website, and there was no cross. I don't know. The members were part of both facilities.
Yes, great question. So we were our own business. We've always been our own business. They, of course, did try to promote us, and we tried
Mhm.
to promote them. However, I always had my own pricing.
Mhm.
I was subleasing the space, and I would
Mhm.
just pay them rent every month
Yeah.
based off of the memberships and drop-ins that I received.
Yeah, okay. And did you hire teachers to teach your schedule? Did you end up teaching a lot of classes there? Like sometimes I see in my experience of seeing a studio owners, like studio owners, I've noticed that a lot owners tend to teach majority of the classes, and I get there probably because they're trying to save money so they don't have to pay other teachers, and it's such a small scale business. But then I saw many owners get really tired and burnt out that way.
Mhm.
So how was it for you?
So thankfully, the second we opened the studio, I did have 2 instructors immediately, and I taught a majority of the other classes. But I know that people aren't always wanting the same exact class from the same exact person, although there are people that love, that same practice every single time. I wanted to get more instructors. So as we got more members, I got more instructors, but I taught a lot of classes at first, but now I only teach 3 classes at the studio, the studio that we're in now.
And how did you how did you feel, I guess, how did you have a confidence when you decide to take this place and start your studio that because it was mostly you teaching in the very, very beginning, you hired 2 teachers to do it too. But did you feel like I have enough student base that I know at least for sure I'll get this many people to come, purchase a membership? Or by that time, were you pretty well known in your community that like people knew you, they knew they will come support you? And also, I'm curious about like, were there a lot of other yoga studios in the area? Did you have a lot of competition, I guess?
All great questions. I'm gonna try to remember them. So I did have a really great, community, and I was already teaching at many facilities, and I knew that many of the students would come to the studio. Um, some of the gyms that I was teaching at, they were closing,
Mm.
so it wasn't like I was stealing anyone. I didn't have to sign any non-competes or anything of that nature anyway, but I knew that they would follow me, and there was a studio that I was teaching at, and that studio was closing.
Uh-huh.
So again, I knew that those students were looking for a place to
Yeah.
come to. Thankfully, I was able to keep in touch with many of them, and they did come to our studio. This was right before COVID,
Oh,
and we had a pretty good thing going right before
yeah.
COVID. It definitely did take some wind out of our sails afterwards, like everybody
Mhm.
experienced. But yeah, we had a lot of support from many different people. And there was not a lot of studios because that one studio closed,
Mhm.
and the other studios in the area were not too far away.
Mhm.
We were in a different demographic, and I
Mhm.
would reach that demographic with uh, better pricing or more accessible pricing, should I say.
Mhm.
So I think that was also another, draw towards us because I wasn't trying to charge somebody, X amount of dollars for a drop in.
Mhm.
If I didn't have that money, I tried to keep our costs really low at first. And
Yeah.
they're still pretty low, honestly.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. It seems like also the timing was amazing with the gym closing and another studio closing, and you knew that community there were gonna be needing a new place to practice at. So sounds
Exactly.
amazing. And I love hearing this like more like this grassroots studio stories because I don't know how it is where you live, but in LA there's a lot of like big corporation studios, like even big gyms like Equinox or Club Studios or Core Power, Yoga 6, Hot 8. Like there's so many big name brand studio. Then I just feel like the way they operate is just it's gonna be so different than this like grassroots, like somebody like mom and pop kind of studio. So I love hearing your stories. So tell me maybe what happened in the pandemic. What, did you have to close your studio down for a while?
Yes. So we had to close down for a while,
Mhm.
but thankfully I still had access to the studio and I could do online classes
Mm.
at the studio because I had, a family at home and it was not ideal to record classes at home for me. I didn't have a huge house where I had some silent, tranquil room. So the studio was that room for me and we
Mhm.
had a great turnout with online classes at first, but then just like everybody else, it was started off really strong
Yeah.
and then started to trickle,
Yeah.
and it was really challenging because I feed so much on the community,
Mm.
and then when not everyone felt comfortable turning their cameras on, depending on how someone is moving in my class, that's how I'm gonna keep teaching.
Yeah.
Right? If, like, everyone's taking child's pose when I'm offering child's pose versus down dog,
Mhm.
right, then I'm gonna change it up.
Yeah.
If everyone's hanging out in downward facing dog, then I might keep some more flow going.
Yeah.
So it was just hard because you can't see everyone, they're this tiny
Uh-huh.
in child's pose. Did they leave the room? Are they walking their dog somewhere?
Mhm.
It was just a different experience.
Yeah, yeah. And how long did you have to close before you were able to reopen your studio again?
I wish I could remember, but
Uh-huh.
I know that we started outside at first. We were able to offer yoga, and
That's okay.
so we were able to offer yoga in the park, which was a huge success. Everyone was thrilled when that became available. And then when we were able to come back in the studio, we did the social distancing where we had to have mats, strategically spaced apart. But people did come back. Some people still haven't been back to this day.
Yeah, yeah. And I know you said you switched location. So, tell me a little bit about what made you switch location and how is it different or similar?
So again, it's really awesome to have the opportunity to reflect on this whole experience that has happened so far. But the gym that I was in, the landlords wanted to sell the space.
Uh,
Surprisingly, the space is still available for purchase right now.
mm,
Nobody is in the space at all. But the new owners were saying that they were going to want to occupy a portion of my brand new renovated space. And I was like going to lose, I don't know, maybe 100 square feet. And
uh,
I just renovated the space. So I'm like, okay, I'm out of here. And I didn't know if I was going to find a new space or if I was just going to close. And at the exact same time, another amazing friend of mine was purchasing a rental property. It had an apartment upstairs and a storefront down below. It was directly across the street from the other space.
wow.
He said, "Do you want to move in here and have a yoga studio?" And I said, "Yes, thank you."
Amazing. And
Yeah.
is it a similar space wise, I guess size wise, it's similar to what it was?
It's similar, like, square footage wise, but it's very different layout wise. So the first space was like a long rectangle,
Uh-huh.
and this space is more of a square, but we can fit similar about amount of mats in both spaces.
Mhm.
Both of them are just the studio space. The new space does have a small restroom,
Mhm.
but you just walk in off the street and then you're in the studio. There's no
Mhm.
vestibule or
Right.
seating area.
Right.
This is beautiful windows, lots of sun, and then we have street access so people can drive by and see us.
Mhm. Oh, amazing. How's your business been growing since the pandemic and reopening? Has it been like slowly increasing? How many classes a week do you offer per week?
I actually don't know offhand how many classes a week we offer. I'm probably guessing between 15 to 18
Yeah.
a week.
Uh-huh.
We're consistent with our memberships. It's been a struggle. This area, I will say, is harder for yoga for
Uh-huh.
sure, harder for fitness and wellness
Uh-huh.
in all areas, but definitely harder for yoga.
Uh-huh.
But we're keeping the doors open.
Yeah.
And thankfully, with the support of my amazing landlord and dear friend, our rent is really low, which is another reason why I've been able to stay open.
Yeah, yeah. And I would love to hear about like what have you learned along the journey of being a studio owners in terms of like because a lot of yoga teacher become teacher because they want to teach and some come from business background but many don't come from business background but sometimes a lot of teachers end up being in a manager role or owner role as how life turns out and I feel like you have to use different part of the brain or you have to almost switch the what kind of hat you wear as when you're showing up to teach in front of the room versus being a studio owner. So how have you navigated learning to be a studio owners and what are some challenges you come across? But also like what do you also love about it?
So I believe that thankfully, like my engineering background, my strategic thinking part of my brain has really helped me become a business owner. It's really helps me with, just keeping schedules and getting things done. But sometimes the marketing part is probably the most challenging part for me.
Mm.
I'm not someone who is a fan of taking photographs of myself or videos of myself. So that part has been a big struggle. However, I love relationships, building relationships. I love networking with people. So that part has been good. And then just meeting wonderful instructors to also help us keep these doors open. Like, I have been blessed with so many amazing instructors to help us teach these classes
Yeah.
and just keep nurturing this community. But it really just takes everybody's help for sure.
Oh, yeah, I bet. Have you found it challenging to navigate, because as a studio owner, you have to also handle the money part of like, this is how much it is, or this is a deal we have, this is a sale, or, your credit card was declined, or people might ask you for a discount. And this money part that maybe a lot of yoga teachers not really good at or don't have a lot of experience in, or even the promotion marketing part, maybe dealing with, I guess, clients and customers, members. And I work at a rock climbing gym as a yoga manager. I do the scheduling and hiring of the teachers and do the communication with teachers for the yoga part of the gym.
Oh, neat.
Even with that tiny little role that I have, I sometimes struggle with, I need to have a talk with this teacher who's continuously showing up late to class, or, I have to have talk about maybe possibly like offering a raise, those kind of things that I feel like I'm not very good at. I probably can learn to get good at, but those kind of part of business that I don't know, how have you found it being as owner and having to have to navigate managing people and employing employees and working and talking about money with clients and teachers that you hire?
Yes, money is definitely a challenging part for the business owning. But as a small business owner, like one of the things I really value is being able to terminate your membership, or drop to a different payment option, right? Like you don't have to stay a member in our studio. And I respect anyone who decides to have that as their payment form. But I just, as a small business owner, as someone who has had financial struggles, I don't sit
Mhm.
well with that. If you want to cancel, cancel. If you wanna come back 2 months down the road, come back 2 months down the road.
Yeah.
I do try to set really healthy boundaries when people come to me and ask me for, promotions,
Mhm.
and I just have a conversation. I just say, like, "Are we trying to get a promotion because we're having financial struggles? Because I want you to still be able to come to,
Mhm.
the classes, and if that's the case, like, come to classes." But promotions I try to do in the summer because
Mhm.
summer is tough.
Mhm.
So we usually do a summer promotion for June, July, August.
Mhm.
Other than that, we don't do a ton of promotions. I try to keep our pricing standard. But if someone wants a scholarship, right, I
Mhm.
recovery yoga. I offer recovery yoga scholarship for people that want to come.
Mhm.
I also have founding
Mhm.
membership. Membership is this amount of money, and our new membership is this amount of money.
Mhm. Yeah.
Things of that nature. But as it comes to the instructors, I have tried
Mhm.
the different payment scales for them. Right now, it's just a base payment for
Mhm.
all classes. But I would love to do something where, like, if you have 8 people in your class, you get this amount of money. Or if you
Mhm.
have 10 people in your class, you get this amount of money. We're not there yet, but hopefully one day we can get there.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for sharing that. And another question is, have you found it easy or challenging to have a work-life balance as a studio owner? Like, do you always feel like you have to be answering phone calls or emails and have to be on or have to get to a studio for emergency sub or, and I know you said you have family, you have children. So how have you found the balance of being a studio owner and also teaching at your studio own and also your personal life?
So it's definitely been a transition. I know that my daughter, she, gets a little upset with me when I'm on my phone.
Mm.
She doesn't understand that I'm doing work stuff, and I should try to set healthier boundaries with that. But I'm just thinking, "Oh, I'm still with her, and I'm
Mhm.
just answering this email or this text," and I try to make it brief, but it is definitely a challenge, and if she asks me, to just put my phone away, I just am deciding I'm putting my phone away, and I'm gonna be more present with her. It doesn't happen all the time, but I'm definitely more aware of it when she mentions it to me, and, I think with my marriage, I don't know, I mean, I'd love to hear his opinion. What he thought about my work-life balance. We are separated now. He didn't say that was the reason, but could be.
Yeah, but I think it matters that you really love what you do, and I'm sure they can see that, and I'm sure they would rather see you doing what you love than, working a job.
Yes, and I was certainly more stressful. Like, I remember vividly coming home from my engineering job and just being so overwhelmed. Like, if someone just even asked me what was for dinner, I couldn't even handle that question. So even if I may be answering emails or on my phone, I'm more pleasant. I'm more pleasant of a person now.
Oh, okay. I want to switch gears to talk about running. Have you always been a runner? Did the running come before you became a yoga teacher, or did you pick up running along the way? Tell me a little bit about your running.
I love talking about running probably as much as I love talking about yoga. I took some notes so I
Yeah.
could answer this question. So I did my first 5K in 2010,
Uh-huh.
and then I did my first 10 miler in 2014,
Uh-huh.
first half in 2014, and then first 50K in 2015.
Oh.
So then I started that yoga teacher training in 2016.
Oh,
So I had already done a 50 miler and then started that yoga teacher training.
okay. And how has your since you have a note there, I want to know what have you been running since then? I want to know your timelines.
So the first 50 miler was in 2016.
Uh,
First 100 wasn't until 2023.
uh-huh.
Uh, I did do a self-supported 50 miler during the pandemic, which was an adventure. It was supposed to be my first 100K.
Uh,
But once everything got shut down, I was like, okay, I don't need to PR during the pandemic. I'll just do a 50 miler, self supported 50 miler. And then once everything opened back up, I signed up for that 100 miler.
wow.
And last weekend, actually, a girlfriend and I, we did 78 miles in the Wissahickon, which is a wooded area near us right outside of Philadelphia. And yeah, just always moving.
Amazing. So your running journey started before teach yoga teaching, but it seems like it was a more shorter distance then, and along with your yoga, your distance has gotten longer and longer. Has it always been trail, or did you do do you do road and trail, or did you start with road and moved on to trail?
So the shorter distances, 5K, 10 miler, half marathon, they were all road.
Mhm.
And then after that half marathon, I really had no desire to go to a street marathon.
Mhm.
So then I got into trail running with that first 50K.
Mhm.
I actually hit my first marathon during that 50K, but it was a trail run, and I am absolutely a trail runner.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, so since you've been doing this all side by side, how have you noticed yoga helping with your running and then also running helping with your yoga?
So I can't imagine one without the other because I've been doing them together.
Mhm.
For the physical, the yoga really helps me mobility wise to keep moving when I'm not running. I
Mhm.
can't imagine how graceful I would move without yoga after running for hours and hours and hours on end. But then the mental benefits, they just really it's like a harmony between the two because I can really harness rather some of my yoga philosophy while I'm suffering in the woods in this
Mhm.
mental headspace. So I really draw on that when I need it mentally. But I
Mhm.
also get those mental benefits when I succeed at a hard distance or a hard trail race.
Mhm.
Um, it's just really they're both amazing practices for sure.
Yeah. And have you found running makes your yoga practice, like, have you found your body gets tighter with more
Oh,
running you do? And has that affected your yoga practice? I guess I'm talking more asana. I know yoga's more, we have
right.
more layers than that, but thinking of just talking about asana, have you found those two things contradicting or like making it like friction?
So I definitely think when I get into a long training season for trail running, that my asana practice definitely looks a little different.
Right.
There's a lot of poses that maybe I would like to be able to access, but I just know that my hips are just not going to do that unless I practice asana even longer than I already do. And it's just not like a goal of mine. I get the benefits of the practice with the mobility, the range of motion I have during peak season. Um, and I just accept it,
Mhm.
right? So at one point I was like, I should be able to do this in my asana practice.
Mhm.
But I decided I really enjoy the running
Mhm.
benefits I get from running. I can still get all the benefits of my yoga practice, not as much from just
Mhm.
solely from asana, right? So I'm just taking a little bit of each, right?
Mhm. Yeah, no, totally. And I'm curious how do you have other friends who's also a yoga teacher or maybe just a very regular yoga practitioner who's also a ultra runner?
I really don't think I don't think I do. So I've met some friends along the way that did teach yoga,
Yeah.
uh, that are ultra runners, but they aren't currently teaching yoga. Um, so I think no right now, but I bet you someone's gonna listen to this podcast and be like, "Hello, me." But I'm off the top of my head, I don't think anyone is. I have a lot of friends that are ultra runners that love yoga.
Yeah.
In fact, yoga was a huge topic for us last week when we were running through the woods. Uh,
Uh-huh.
I think my friend, was trying to distract me and
Uh-huh.
ask me some, yoga questions to keep me off
Yeah.
the fact that we were running for 28 hours.
That's a long time.
It was a lot.
Yeah, amazing. I had another question. I guess scheduling, like, have you found it challenging to, with ultra training, it just takes a long time. There's a lot of chunks and hours out of your day and your weekly schedule that is dedicated to training. Have you found it hard to, as a studio owner too, because you own a studio, you also teach and you're also a mom. So have you found it, how have you been able to balance it all?
It's definitely challenging,
Mm.
specifically when I was doing yoga teacher trainings at the studio,
Yeah.
right? We would have to start on Saturday mornings, and I would also get my long run in on Saturday mornings. So those were the most challenging times for sure. And then I took a 300-hour yoga teacher training. I apologize. When I took that 300-hour training, I was running in between all these yoga sessions,
Yeah.
and it was just wild. And I will say, that Saturday mornings are usually my day off because I usually just run on Saturdays.
Mhm.
There's been times when I'm in the woods and I just decide to check my cell phone and
Mhm.
the instructor for Saturday morning is not available,
Uh-huh.
abruptly, like, letting me know, and I'm just rambling in the woods trying to find someone who can open the doors. So it's happened a few times, but
Uh-huh.
it's been it's been pretty good.
Yeah. So I think I mentioned this earlier in the conversation, but I get a lot of comments from, and I'm new to long distance running. I've been running pretty as part of my life for a while. I ran quite a few half marathons before I got into super long distances. But once I became a yoga teacher and really started like really going deep into yoga and making yoga as a really crucial part of my lifestyle and becoming a full-time teacher, I kind of stopped running for a while, maybe 8 years or so. And then I recently started picking up and really been enjoying trail and longer distances. But what I've noticed is the common comments I get is like from yoga people is like, that's like not dangerous, but that's all the what work you done in your asana is just you're just gonna move backwards with all that running you do, or like you are just destroying your knees and hips, like it's not good for you, kind of thing. So I wonder if you get those comments too, or I'm sure being in the running world for as long as you are, you probably have seen or experienced, that's not the case for, I'm sure some people do go through injuries and all that, but I don't think that is the case for all runners. So, yeah, I don't know, anything you wanna say in this topic?
It makes me giggle because I really wish that individuals were as concerned about my mental health as they are concerned about my knees. I don't know why everyone is so concerned about my knees. My knees are fine. Thank you for being concerned, but it's I get a lot of comments about knees.
Yeah.
But I also do strength training,
Mm.
you know, in conjunction with yoga, and I think it all works well together.
Yeah.
If I just did the running and I didn't do the asana and I didn't do the strength training, then sure, maybe I would have these knee injuries or hip injuries. But I really think I have a smart training cycle I don't go super high mileage with my schedules. I do a good amount of strength training to
Mhm.
keep everything healthy. And then I take rest and, recovery very seriously. So
Mhm.
I think with a strong asana practice, you know, it's helpful for a
Mhm.
runner. And I don't think I'm undoing everything. I think I'm undoing some of this stuff, mobility wise, perhaps, but my goal is not to like get my foot behind my in
Yeah.
any of the asana practice. My goal is just to keep moving like
Mhm.
throughout my whole life.
Yeah, yeah. No, I love that. I love to hear that because I completely agree with everything you said. I was I come from sports background. I used to play basketball growing up, and so and maybe just genetic wise too, I just always been built a little bit more strong and love strength training. And I just never been the type of yoga practitioner who can do a split or put the legs behind the head. That just never been my practice journey. And part of me at some point in my journey, I was like, why can't I do those things? Like if I work hard enough, I should be able to get there. But I'm at the point where I'm like, that's just not my body. And I'm gonna embrace what my body's capable of and my body's good at, which is a lot of strength and I love running and I also love asana. So definitely that's not the goal in yoga that I'm looking for anyway. So I really love how you phrase that. I guess I'm just curious about long distance run, like because you've run 100K and 100 mile. How does that training, how long is your training block for, let's say, 100 mile? And what does that training look like in terms of like you said you run 78 miles recently. So
Right.
like do you have like what's the longest run on your training block to train for a 100 mile race?
So I changed things up with so I did 100 miles. Well, actually, it was 125 back in May. I
Yeah.
had the opportunity to go out to Arizona, and it was called Sedona Canyons 125.
Uh-huh.
And my peak week during that training schedule, I did 320. So on a Thursday, or sorry, maybe probably a Friday, I would do
Yeah.
20, Saturday 20, Sunday 20. And I
Oh.
did that a few times throughout my schedule. And I really like that.
Mhm.
Previously for 100 milers, I try to do 30, just like 30 on Saturday, 20 on Sunday, and
Mhm.
I found that to be a little harder to recover from
Mhm.
in the 20-20-20 format, and I'm gonna duplicate that
Mhm.
for the next 100 that I'm doing in December.
So that's so interesting. Yeah, I knew that doing long runs back to back is a great way to train your body for the long distances come. But 2020 back to back to back sounds challenging, but it also like sounds less daunting than doing like 80-mile run to prepare for your 100-mile run or something. You know?
Yes, and at that point, I've done a 100 miler before, so
Yeah.
now I know that I can physically and mentally handle it. So now it's just making sure, my body's ready for it. The first 100 miler was really challenging. After I hit that 50-mile mark, and
Uh-huh.
I had never gone more than 50 miles, I was very nervous.
Yeah.
But out and back, I was like, I already did this whole part. Now
Yeah.
I just have to go back.
Yeah.
But it was interesting.
Yeah, I'm sure you learned so much in that first 100 mile. Well, I want to hear about your first 50K because that is the one I'm gearing up for right now. So I know you said before that you had half marathon distance before
Yeah.
that. So how does that training go, and how was that first 50K experience, and mentally and physically for you?
So I still remember this first 50K like it was yesterday. It
Mhm.
was it was one of the most amazing experiences I've had. You
Mhm.
know, it was a first of all, it was a beautiful course, a beautiful day.
Yeah.
I really felt confident in my training. I did a lot of back-to-back runs. I love the long run Saturday
Uh,
and pretty long run Sunday.
yeah.
Um, so I think I would get up to, I want to say maybe I got up to like 18 on a Saturday, and then I would do maybe 12 on a Sunday, something
Mm.
like that. They say what you get in a weekend is
Mhm.
what if you try to get that goal, like say your goal is 50K, if you try to get that throughout the weekend,
Mhm.
Saturday, Sunday, then that's a good training block.
Mhm. I
So I
see.
kind of did something similar to that. And I just felt great. I really felt great. It was on the trail, and it was just, I don't know. I was hooked after that for sure.
Yeah, yeah. And did you go from 50K to 50-mile and then from 50-mile to 100K?
I've done a few other 50Ks in there, but I didn't just go right from the 50K to the 50 miler. It looks like it was a little over a year, uh, but there wasn't as many 50 milers, around.
Uh-huh.
I found this 50 miler. I had to drive out, to Western Pennsylvania, to do this race. That was a disaster. Never ran again after that 50 miler. Uh, Well, or so I said. It took me pretty soon to register for another race, but that race was tough. That's when I hit my first dark uh,
Uh-huh.
time during running was
Mm.
50 miles. I'm
That's a,
not saying 50K can't be scary and have a dark time, but for
yeah.
me, it was all wonderful. 50K,
Uh,
50 miles, tough.
it's a big jump from 50K to 50 mile.
Yes,
That's like 20 more miles from that.
yes,
Yeah.
and you can't anticipate that pace staying the same. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? You can't be like, "Oh, I'm just gonna, keep it." You're not keeping. I mean,
Mhm.
I'm not keeping that same pace. Maybe you are. I wish you all the best, but I'm not keeping that same pace throughout the whole 50 miles.
And did you ever get running coach or is it or training program or is that something you always kind of like created your own or what's your strategy been with like training, getting support?
So again, I always have a lot of support from friends. My buddies that I started trail running with, they would help me find training plans, and we would just kind of share training plans. And they were big time researchers. They were also in the engineering industry, so we would all kind of like coach each other. We called ourselves Running Dumb.
Mhm.
And now, since I've been doing this for some time, I feel pretty confident in the schedules that I create. And I just run what I'm doing off other people, and they'll tell me if they think it's good or what they think I might need to add. But I have not had the luxury of having a running coach yet. I
Yeah.
hope one day I can have that opportunity. But as of right now, I have not ever had a running coach,
Mhm.
strength and conditioning coach that I find to be really amazing. That's where I really need the most coaching.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it seems like you have such a great community of runners that you can like bounce ideas around and compare notes and compare each other's training plans and see what has worked. And that's really cool. Yeah. I want to kind of bring it back to yoga a bit. As somebody who runs such a long distance or, long distance ultra runners and being a yoga practitioner at the same time, what are some lessons that you learned in running that has helped you in yoga and maybe vice versa, if there's any lessons in yoga that has helped you in your running?
I definitely have to think about this question. So I think being more of a business owner,
Yeah.
right? The running has really, like the resiliency that I've learned through running has helped me as a business owner and a full time yoga instructor because it's definitely not easy. And the thing is, I don't choose ultra running because it's easy. I choose it because I like that I can push my body to do these things. So I kind of use that philosophy with my yoga business and just like, I don't want to be a yoga instructor because I think it's some easy career. I want to do this. I think it's important for me to like spread yoga in this community. I think
Mhm.
it's very needed in this community. So resiliency for sure
Yeah.
as for that.
For sure.
For the running, I think it's just, meditation, right? When I'm running, I think of it as an active meditation, and I really just get my head in a space, focus on my breath. I don't listen to music when I run, and I think that's because of my yoga practice. I find running to be very meditative. I love running with friends, I'll talk with friends, but when I'm alone running, I just focus on my breath, focus on my body, and it's just like it is an active meditation for me.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I love that. So the resiliency from running, ultra running, that translates to running your business. But then that mindfulness and like being present that you can learn in yoga transfer to also when you're running. I think those are very beautiful. How many big races do you run per year to make sure you giving yourself enough downtime between very focused trainings?
So that's a great question, and that has changed pretty recently. So before I would try to do one big race a year, maybe like 100 miler.
Yeah.
I got introduced to a friend when I was training for this 125-mile event in May,
Hmm.
and she was training for the 250-mile version of that same event. And
Wow.
then since we've become friends, she signed up for this race in December.
Uh-huh.
We ran together last weekend, and I'm not saying she's a bad influence. I think she's a wonderful influence. But now I'm doing more events in the
Uh-huh. Yeah.
as a result of being friends with this woman.
Oh, And have you had any major injuries during this years of training and running long distances?
So I wouldn't say major injuries, thankfully.
Mm.
I will say one year, I forget what year it was, I was not doing as much strength training during my training schedule. And I did this run. It was called Boulder Field. I did the 50K and my legs were trashed very shortly into that run. And I think it was a direct result of not doing
Mm,
strength and conditioning training. So now I do that religiously.
mhm.
And thankfully I've been doing good.
Yeah. From the beginning of this time around when I started getting more into running, I really decided to focus on strength training, mixed in like a hybrid of like a couple times strength training into my running program. And from what I'm learning and listening to everybody else talk about, it seems like such an important key to running healthy is strength training. And I definitely do think yoga plays a huge role too. It's a yoga, strength training, running. I do myofascial release with those balls. And I feel like it's just a good blend to do all of those things as a runner, I feel like. And as a yoga teacher, yoga practitioner, right? Like I think it's also so important that we're strength training. So I think it's a really beautiful combination.
It is, and, what I heard when you just shared that is it's the whole picture, right? When you think of
Yeah.
yoga, if you follow, like, the 8 limbs, right? You're not just practicing asana, you're practicing all of these limbs of yoga.
Yeah.
Same thing with the running, you're not just a runner, you're doing the asana, the strength and conditioning, the recovery, the hydration, the nutrition. It's like, oh, you can't just pick and choose one part. You're
Mhm.
doing it all, or it's not gonna be successful, at least that's how it works for me.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Oh, that's beautifully said. I remember my random question. Are we meant to carb load like how before ultra race as much as carb loading is emphasized in like marathon, road marathon, like a couple days before you're making sure you're eating this many grams of carbohydrates before race? Or is ultra running such a like more slower pace and we do take breaks to like actually eat solid food in between that is carb loading not as emphasized?
If it's not as emphasized by other runners, this is news to me because I really value carb loading. When I was preparing for last week,
Yeah.
Wednesday night and Thursday night, both dinners were very carb heavy.
Mhm.
Even though I am eating while I'm running,
Mhm.
I try to take in those carbs beforehand.
Yeah.
I find it to be successful for me, but also it's a very bland
Mhm.
food. So
Uh-huh.
that way when I'm running, I'm not having any GI upset because I'm eating pretty bland, carb heavy foods that are easy to digest. So for me, it works,
Yeah.
but definitely practice eating
Mhm.
whatever you're going to eat on that longest run. I would say practice it just like you're going to do it on race day to prepare. When is your 50K? Is it like this weekend?
This Sunday.
Oh my goodness, I knew it was coming up. Oh my goodness, I will be thinking of you.
And then I don't know if you might have heard me talk about it with Steve's thing, but the race that I signed up for was not canceled, postponed to another date that doesn't work for me. So I'm running the 50K on my own without the race because this is the initial date that I've been training for, and I just didn't have flexibility to change the change the training to new date. So I'm a little bit, so my little like nervousness comes from doing it alone. Because usually at the race, you get this like energy from other runners and people cheering you on and having aid stations. And I'm just going to do like a 10-mile loop back to my car is my plan. So I use my car as an aid station. So, beyond the 20 miles, like I run marathon distance, it's 26, but my training run, it's 20-mile was the longest run. So part of me is like, would I be able to do it without like this energy of the race for the last 10-mile push? But I'm sure
It'll be great. It's gonna be mentally tough. I think honestly it'll be mentally tougher than it will be physically
yeah.
because you did good training and trust your training. But just when you get back to your car, it's hard sometimes to leave the car again,
Ah,
right? And that's the drawback with loops, but it's nice to be able to get more hydration, more food, and then go back out. But just use your yoga, right? And like you can do this, you can certainly do hard things. You're gonna be great.
yeah, so
I
true.
can't wait to get it.
Yes, I'll definitely be updating on online and on the social media podcast. But with somebody like you and probably Steve, like 50K is just kind of like easy for you. Or like it's at the point where 50K is like, oh yeah, I can probably get up and do that anytime.
Yes, and that was one of my goals when I first started running. Like, I wanted to be able to get up and run 20 miles on a Saturday morning. Someone says, "Hey, let's run 20 miles."
Yeah.
And I could be 50K ready pretty soon after, but it's still challenging, but the right amount of scale.
Yeah, so true. I definitely want to get to that point of like I can easily get up and do 50K or even 20 mile. 20 miles was the longest. I did that couple times and although I know I can do it, it's still like, I have to like mentally prepare a couple days before, like, okay, running 20 mile this weekend. So definitely want to get to that point where it's like, oh yeah, I can get up and do 20 or 30 miles without too much stress or like being nervous about it.
It'll definitely come. It's just it's still wild to me. Tomorrow, I'm running 10 miles and I catch myself saying like, "Oh, only 10," which I don't think 10 is an only. It's
Yeah.
still a big deal, but in comparison to 20 and 30,
Yeah.
it's only 10. But yes,
Yeah.
it's wild.
Uh, well, oh my God, thank you so much for chatting with me. I'm getting this conversation was at the right time because I am mentally preparing myself to run the 50K this Sunday. So and it's always so nice to chat with other yoga teacher, full-time yoga teacher, and you're also a studio owner and an ultra runner. So that's something that I, really admire and such an inspiration. So really, really appreciate this conversation. Maybe the last question I want to ask before I want you to still share more people can find you. But what last question is, what does success mean to you?
Hmm. I don't know. Let's see. What does success mean to me? Honestly, I don't know. I don't really think of success in that way. To me, like just being at peace with myself is
Mm.
more important to success. So maybe success is, a healthy mind more so than I don't know. I think of success as like a financial word for some reason, but
Yeah.
success is just, being graceful to myself, not being hard on myself. Like if I don't succeed at something,
Yeah.
that it's okay. I'm allowed to fail. I guess success to me is more like a mental state of mind.
Yeah, yeah. It kind of while you were explaining that, the word that came up for me was santosha and niyama, that contentment or finding peace, that equanimity. So that's the word that came to me when you were explaining that.
Yes.
So please tell the listener how they can find you if they want to follow you or reach out to you or talk to you, or if there's anything about your studio or anything upcoming for you that you want to share with the listeners.
Great. Thank you so much for asking. You could find me on Instagram. Our studio Instagram is 1010 Truth, TENTEN, and my personal Instagram is DLN1010. Our website's 1010truth.com, and we are going to Belize in February. Well, Belize and Tikal, and we're going to go to Greece in June. So
Huh?
you can come travel with us, or you could come see us in our studio in Morton, Pennsylvania.
That's
Um,
exciting. Is this your first international retreat, or have you been running international retreats for a while with your studio?
We've run a few. Our first retreat was Peru. I call it a retreat. It was more of an adventure, honestly. We don't really stay in the same spot for most of our trips, but we went to Peru in 2022.
Did you do a hiking trip?
Yes, we did hiking. We got to see Machu Picchu. We got to hike a portion of the Inca Trail. It was life-changing. It was amazing.
Amazing. Do you ever think about, I asked this to Steve too, but do you ever think about doing like running and yoga retreat?
Yes. So actually, the retreat center that I'm going to Belize with, Jade Jungle Resorts,
Uh-huh.
the owner there, he was mentioning about eventually starting different types of retreats like that.
Uh-huh.
But whenever I'm in these countries, I go running. I remember when I was in Costa Rica, I was just running all over the place, and I got a little lost, and the rest of the guides were trying to find me. But I was not lost. I just was poor time management. But yeah, I would love to do a running retreat. It's probably gonna happen very soon, I'm sure.
Yeah. Oh my God. Keep me updated on that. I would totally I would love to go to a running and yoga retreat. Like what we just talked about, I think is such a beautiful combination to do yoga and maybe like one nice long run in a day and then like yoga in the morning and like some kind of inner restorative in the evening or something. That would be really cool. I would really want you to organize that.
Yeah, and that's what I do on the retreat, but typically so far on these trips, I've been the only runner. So we're just in Portugal in June, and I was on a run by myself, and I was like, "This is a little sketchy," but I sur
Yeah, it'll be cool. But I guess like as an organizer's point of view, maybe I would have to think of like if I was organized something like that, I would have to think about mileage that works for everybody, or maybe having a short run day and maybe having a long run days, and participants can choose to come on one or either or none of it. Like kind of they get to decide.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah,
Yes.
that'd be really cool. Let us know if you do that retreat.
I certainly will. Thank you so much for having me on. It was wonderful talking with you.
Nice talking to you, Danielle. I really appreciate your time.
Good luck on Sunday.
Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to this week's podcast and the conversation I had with Danielle. I hope you enjoyed another conversation I had with a yoga teacher and an ultra runner. I think they are kind of a rare breed. I don't meet that many ultra runner who is also a full-time yoga teacher, not alone a studio owner. So Danielle was so much fun to chat to, and it's so amazing how she does it all, and really, really admire her for all the running she does and the business owner that she is and a great mother that she is. So thank you so much, Danielle, for coming on and chatting with me. If you're enjoying this podcast, please rate, subscribe, star, anything you can do on whatever platform you're listening from. That would help out this podcast a lot so I can continue to release new episode every week. And the best thing you can do is to share this episode with somebody you know, a friend, a yoga teacher, anyone you think will benefit from this podcast. That would mean so much to me. As always, you can always message me, reach out to me, follow me on Instagram. My handle is @Reika Yoga, REIKAYOGA, and my website is www.reikayoga.com. All the links are going to be on the show notes for you to easily click. And that is it for me today. I hope you have a great rest of your week and talk to you next week. Bye.